Okay, let me just click on that. There we go.
Good afternoon. Today I have Craig with me. Hello, Craig. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Craig Robertson. I am the author of 9 books, mainly set in Glasgow. I'm a former journalist. I'm the director of the Bloody Scotland Festival and lots of other stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about in the next hour or half hour or whatever we're going to talk.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, I think it's always something I wanted to do. It was never something I thought I would do. You know, it probably always seemed like something other people did. But I always loved writing from early on. But the thought of being a novelist is a different thing altogether. But I was a journalist for a long time, for 20 years. So, you know, long before that came to an end, I knew that writing books is what I wanted to do. So at that point, I'd made my mind up, and then it was only a matter of whether I could actually do it or not.
And what was the moment that made you decide, okay, I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to go for it?
I'd loved being a journalist. I loved it for 15 years. And then I thought, well, the writing was on the wall. I knew the way it was going. Lots of jobs have been lost in journalism. I knew the way it was going, and I wanted out, and I wanted out on my own terms. And I needed a new career. And it seemed the most logical one is to use some of the skills that I had and put them towards writing a book. And it took me a long time to write that first book, but it took me 5 years from starting it, from getting the idea to going through the whole process. So it took a long time, mainly because I had no idea what I was doing. And I just had to learn as I was going. But yeah, I've never regretted it.
And what made you choose the genre that you write in?
I think, like most people, it was what I read more than anything else. I mean, I overwhelmingly read crime, so it was always likely I was going to do that. And also, it's just the way I'm wired. It's just what suits me. You know, I have a dark enough personality that's easily my go-to kind of thing. I'm never. If I ever write, you know, a cozy or a romance, you know, just come and shoot me. They're fantastic for those who want to do it and want to read it, but it's just not me. I'm really not sure I'd make a good job of that at all.
What's the most interesting thing you found out when doing research for your books?
Oh, tons of stuff. I mean, I'd love doing the research. That's one of my favorite things about the whole process. And I know that I quite often make life difficult for myself. I didn't realize it until a couple of books after this. I think 3 books in a row, I wrote about subjects that I knew absolutely nothing about and had to learn everything about. So I wrote a book about the Faroe Islands, which I knew nothing about and I'd never been to. Then I followed that by writing a book about urbexing, so urban exploring, so exploring abandoned buildings and tunnels and towers and things. And then I wrote a book about murderabilia, which is behind me somewhere. Yeah, there we go. And that's about people who collect things related to serial killers, and it's a huge industry and hobby for people. I knew nothing about any of these things, so I had to go and learn it all from scratch. But it was all fascinating. The whole murderabilia thing, it's like many things when you write and research, you go down rabbit holes and you learn much more than you really need to know. And, you know, it's a pretty strange world, murderabilia, just by the nature of it and the people who collect the things that they collect. And I ended up buying a few things. So that was pretty odd. But, you know, I loved it. I couldn't deny it. And you need to do it. You need to know your stuff, or there'll be somebody out there who knows more than you do and are going to be quick to point out you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, especially crime readers, I think we're particularly picky.
Yeah, can be. Yeah, now and again, and that's fine. I think when you get things wrong, maybe you should get picked up on them. But it's, you know, it's when people pick up on the tiniest things and think, well, that completely ruined the book for me because you have to turn left on that corner instead of turn right on that corner. Like, come on, it's fiction. Cut me some slack. So, but on your main stuff, you should know it. You should know what you're writing about.
If you were to be transported into one of your own books as a character, which book would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, today I would choose The Last Refuge, which is set on the Faroe Islands, because today, as we're recording this, Scotland are playing in football in the Faroe Islands tonight. So that would be nice and convenient. I would go to a pub, the name of which I've forgotten, but features heavily in that book. It was 5 books ago, I've forgotten now. But I went there and I loved the Faroes. I absolutely loved the place. So I would go there right now, even though I'm sure it's even wetter than it is outside Scotland here right now, and it'll be pretty miserable. But yeah, I want to go back. I've got plans to write other books there if I ever get the chance to write those books. I've got a queue of books waiting to be written. So we'll see. I've got my German publishers want me to write more books in the Faroes, and I have a trilogy planned out, and I'm just waiting for a break to be able to do that. So yeah, that would be my choice, I think, right now.
And out of all the books you've written so far, is there a favourite character that you've written?
It's always like you feeling. I immediately think, oh well, there's one that pops to my head, but that's unfair on the other ones. It's like choosing between your children. But my new book, which is also, it sounds like it's a good chance to plug my new book out in January, but it's called The Undiscovered Deaths of Grace McGill, and Grace might be my favorite character at the moment. You know, and it changes all the time. It's because it's a new book. Although I'm in the process of writing book 11 right now, and I'll be going back to that as soon as we finish talking. And I'm loving the character in that, but it's kind of early days with her. But Grace McGill, Grace is a cleaner, a lonely desk cleaner. So her specialty is cleaning in homes where bodies have been left undiscovered for months. And so she will go in and deep clean homes where people have died and no one's noticed. So she's interesting. She's very socially awkward, quite shy, but definitely has a lot of personality of her own. She doesn't always say what she thinks, has a mind of her own. But she's caring as well. She wants to do this job because it's such a terrible thing that people should be left alone. So her and the book is about society and about loneliness and old age, but obviously there's some bad shit goes on as well, and there's a thriller at the heart of it. So right now I would say Grace is my favorite, and I say that with apologies to Tony and Rachel and Uncle Danny and all this.
Do you hide any secret jokes or messages or Easter eggs in your books?
I do, but if I would that would kind of give it away, I think. Yeah, I've regularly played jokes on Friends. I've got I put one of my friends, it was a couple, I made Jackie a police officer, and she had and her police dog was Davy, which is her husband's name. So she thought that was funnier than he did. I also married off two of my friends, two male friends, and again, most people thought that was funnier than they did. So yeah, you've just got to. It's so difficult finding names for characters because you've used them all and you have to try and keep them different. So I use friends and I use neighbors, and I try. You've got to remember who you've used as well, because I used one in the first book in Random, and I was talking to my next door neighbor here on the doorstep, and he said that he really enjoyed the book, but he was a bit surprised to find out that he turned out to be the bad guy. And I thought, yes, forgot about that. So I named the character after him before I then made changes to the plot. But he was okay with it, so which is just as well.
I've only been named in one book, but I was a sex mad politician, which was fun.
That seems appropriate. So.
Thanks. And which has made me completely forget what I was going to ask you next. So easily distracted, honestly. Do you have any phobias, and would you write about them, or have you written about them?
I don't know if I have phobias as such. I'm not great with confined spaces. I'm okay, but I'm not completely comfortable with it. So I have used that in a couple of books. In Place of Death, which is about Robertson character, it starts with a walk through a tunnel that goes under Glasgow that's still there. There was a burn called the Mollendiner burn, which Glasgow sort of grew from, and it's now covered over, and you can still go in and walk the length of it. But towards the end, it goes down to about 1.5 feet high, and there was no way I was going to do that. It was just, I'd have loved the first so far, but when it got to that height, I'm not sure I'd have liked that at all. I'm not sure many people would, but I found an urbexer who was able to help me, a guy he'd photographed every step through that tunnel, so I was able to describe accurately without having to go through that and go down there. I'm also not very keen on rats, so I had a scene in Random where my character is bitten by rats when he's in another underground area, and I thought, well, this is going to scare the bejesus out of me, so hopefully it's going to do the same to other people. So you can use things. We all use anything at our disposal to try and make the book as good and as real as you can. So that I think they're my only phobias, I think, and beetroot. But that does really work in a book. Can't stand beetroot, but it's not going to work as a plot device.
You could have it as a little quirk, another little Easter egg, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I'll bear that one in mind.
Yeah, as long as I get acknowledged for it, it's fine. I'm joking.
No, it goes without saying. If I use beetroot, you're in.
That'll be what I'm known for after. What's one of the most fun scenes you've written, and what's been one of the most difficult? Obviously, without spoilers, if you can.
Oh, most fun scenes. I don't know. In theory, they should all be fun. The first one that comes to mind, I wrote a scene. My last book, Watch Him Die, is partly set in Glasgow and partly set in Los Angeles. So I spent, pre-COVID, I spent a lot of time in California because my wife's an author and she's from California. So we would spend about 3 months there, having been in since last March. But thankfully, I was able to research this book before that all shut down. And there's an abandoned water park out in the desert, in the Mojave Desert, which I wanted to use. And I took a trip out there with my wife, and it was a fascinating place to visit because it's this rundown, really spooky water park covered in graffiti. People have just walked away from it, and you can go in and explore the buildings, but you don't know what's around the corner. Some of it's broken down with concrete. I went into one room. Sorry, that was me getting a parcel delivered at the front door. Just to show that this is live and happening. All right, he's left it good. It'll be soaking wet. So, but you've gone into these rooms, and I went into one room, and there was a bird took off it's like inches from my face. I went in another room, and there was rats. In another room, there's also rattlesnakes. Thankfully, I didn't see one. So it was really a real fun place to go. There was this huge water tower that I ended up putting a body in. Slight spoiler. And it was great. So when I came to write that, it was a fun thing to do because I had all the photographs at hand and just try and recreate the atmosphere of being there. So that's it. Yeah, that's the one I'd go for right now.
Do you have lots of author friends?
One or two, yeah, one or two. So I've been doing this full time for 10 years now. So I spend a lot of time at book festivals. Well, we're just getting back into doing that again now. So yeah, it's strange how much my group of friends has changed in the time. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of us that will regularly prop up a bar together or sit around talking nonsense. That group of us do a quiz online every week, and it's great. But it's people who understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and we can share lots of gossip and support as well. So it's yeah, I run two book festivals myself. I've no idea why I run two or I've got time to run two, but that helps a lot. And it helps that there's people I can just go to and say, do you want to come up and do this? And as a rule, people do. As you know, they're just fun weekends, and it kind of helps you can bring your pals along.
Yeah. And you get a lot of feedback from your readers.
I do, and I'm pretty lucky that I get almost all positive feedback. I've never really see. I'm now tempted fate. You know, somebody's going to write in now and tell me how terrible they are. Yeah, and feedback's good. I think, especially face to face, especially at festivals. You know, when someone just comes up and says, "Love that book," or just wanted to chat, then it's great. And I think it's one of the things, well, you'll know, that readers love about book festivals. Is that authors are approachable. You generally know where you're going to find them. They're generally going to be somewhere near the bar, and it's great to get that back, because otherwise, you know, you're just writing your book and hoping that people are liking it and liking all of it. So to get feedback is always helpful, and it just makes it feel good.
Have you had any weird or strange feedback, or any people approach you at festivals that are a bit odd?
Well, yeah, everybody's a bit odd. We're all a bit odd, but that's okay. Well, yeah, I suppose after writing Murder of Billy, I did an event with Denise Miner, and we was both written books that featured real life killers. Murder of Billy, and she had written The Last Drop, and we did an event, and lady asked that we write about how things would affect victims' families in our books, but do we ever consider writing about how it affects the killers' families? And it was a really interesting question, and we talked about it for a while. And at the end, she came up and sort of took me aside and said the reason she asked that question was that her brother was a triple murderer. And we chatted about that, and it was fascinating, not quite what I expected. Then the next day at the same festival, she came up to me and had a carrier bag and sort of thrust that to me and said that she wanted me to have it. I said, okay. And I was just literally had a foot on stage to go and start another event. And she said, I want you to have this because these are the things that my brother had on him when he killed the 3 people. And that, you know, that's a bit strange, you know. And she'd said she'd had this burden for 30 years, and now I was taking the burden from her. So now I have the burden. I have this person's car keys and house key and blood transfusion card and library card and wallet, and I don't know what the hell I've got to do with them. So yeah, occasional strangeness. It was all, you know, she'd had to live with us for 30 years, and it cannot be easy. And okay, so if that's some way of her feeling better about it, then fine, I'll take them. Yeah, I don't even know where they are. My wife might have thrown them out when I wasn't looking.
Yes. I mean, kind of nice that she trusted you with them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so, but definitely slightly not what I expected.
If you were to be a killer in a book, how would you kill your victims?
Oh, carefully. So I really wouldn't want to get caught. That would be the main thing. So that would be my priority, was not to get caught. In Random, the killer, and the Random's told from the killer's point of view, and for the plot, he had to kill them in different ways and in fairly kind of high profile ways. So I spent for that book a lot of time trying to work out very different ways to kill people, and preferably ways that hadn't been done before. Someone had a rolled up newspaper thrust down their throat to choke them. Someone else had their mouth duct taped and their nostrils super glued together. So it was a fun journey trying to work out ways to do things. So I think something that didn't leave a trace might be the way I'd want to go. So some kind of poison, I would think. I'll give them more thought because I'm not quite ready to kill anyone yet. So I'll get back to you.
Thanks. Your secret will be safe. It's fine.
Okay, yeah.
If the police come to me, I know nothing.
It's the best way. Just say.
I study forensics, and literally, like, you know, all of us say we're doing it because we want to kill someone and get away with it.
Well, that's good. Everyone's got to have a hobby, so it's fine.
Yeah, but our lecturer's no fun. She tells us stuff to a point, but only to a point where we couldn't actually do anything with it to, you know, hurt someone.
Well, that's not much use.
I know. Yeah.
You need to take her out, a few drinks, and then find out the rest.
Yeah. Apparently our reputation preceded us. She doesn't trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, let me know. I might know a few things. So
yeah, I could probably give you a couple of tips as well that I've learned.
Well, I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. If you were able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you like to spend a day with?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably someone dead, because the alive ones mostly I can spend quite a lot of time with, which is great. And it's one of the best things about being an author is you do get to meet your heroes. You know, all the people that I've read before I started writing, I'm now friends with a lot of them, and that's a great thing. So, so someone dead. I've got to say Charles Dickens for reasons that escape me. Just I think he'd be fascinating. So, if it was someone alive, maybe James Ellroy, who is just a bit of an odd character, but I love his books, and the oddness appeals as well. I'm sure it would not be dull.
No. When you're editing your books, what's your most overused word or phrase?
Oh, the ones, my characters tend to nod a lot and shrug a lot, so I'd have to go back and take a lot of them out. They always seem like a good idea at the time, and then you suddenly realize there's 73 of them. So yeah, some of that has to go. And then I like the editing process. It's good to catch these things, or have a fresh pair of eyes to catch them as well. But yeah, I need to do less nodding and a lot less shrugging.
Yeah. Then I'll just be doing something else.
Yeah, well, sometimes when they're not nodding their head, they're bobbing their head, or they'll drop their heads. You know, like it's still all the same thing. But we do it in real life. You know, we nod a lot more than we know, I think, instead of, yeah, there you go. So it's these, we don't always use the word. So, but it can get a bit repetitive. So I try to avoid that.
Yeah. I have to ask about Bloody Scotland, and you were the person to introduce Stephen King and Linwood Barclay. How did that come about, and how was it?
Oh, it was great. It came about in February. Because we were doing a hybrid, so we were able to beam in some authors who maybe wouldn't travel. My feeling was, well, why don't we go get the biggest name we can? And I said, why don't we try and get Stephen King? And I'm not having to go at the rest of the board, but it was all like, well, you'll never get Stephen King. He's not going to do it. He doesn't do much. But my feeling was, well, there's no harm in trying. But it was quite a convoluted route. So I knew that he and Linwood were good pals. I'd seen them going back and forward on Twitter a lot. I know Linwood a bit, but not that much. So, but I knew that Mark Billingham was good pals with Linwood. So I went to Mark, because I'm good pals with Mark, and I said, Mark, could you go to Linwood and ask Linwood if he would go to Steve, it's Steve now to me, and ask if they'd do it. So Linwood came back and said, well, I'll ask, but he won't do it, because I've asked him to do it for a bunch of other places, and he's just not up for it. He doesn't need to do it. So okay. But then Linwood comes back and says yes. And we were all kind of, Linwood says it happened because he wrote him a very funny email. So I'm prepared to go with that. Either that or it's just coming to do Scotland. Appeal to him. I don't know what, and I don't care, because he said yes, and it was great. But that was in February, and I had to sit in that secret till August, and that wasn't easy. I told maybe about no more than about 3 people. Yeah, you're never going to guess who's coming. It's Stephen King. On the day that we launched the program, we gave out the program to the authors who came for the photo call, and there was about a dozen of them, and every one of them was looking through, and they all went, Stephen King, you're kidding me. And every one of them had the same reaction. And we thought, well, okay, this is going to work then. Introducing them, I was nervous before it, which is unusual. And I was standing there. I was nervous that something might go wrong, that the tech might not work. You know, because we had Steve coming in from Maine, and we had Linwood coming in from Toronto, both getting beamed. And I thought, you know, all it needs is a bit of dodgy Wi-Fi or something, and this is going to be terrible. But we had, You were there, you in the audience, and so you saw that it was only for about 10 seconds, but when I did the introduction and went to them, they both started talking and nothing could be heard. I thought, you are kidding me. You are kidding me. So I said to the audience, well, that's fine. I can talk about my new book instead. And it just bought enough time that it came. And I think it was simply that our tech guys hadn't put the volume up in time. But yeah, for a minute, my heart stopped and think, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. But then they were just brilliant. And they just got on with it. I stepped back and let them talk. And it was a lot of fun. And the applause at the end for the two of them is easily the longest, most extended applause I've ever heard at a book event. It just went on and on. I was actually doing the next event after it, the quiz, and I was thinking, you guys need to stop clapping. I need to clear this room for the next event. It just went on, and I think that showed that it worked. And the two of them were just brilliant.
Did you get to speak to them before and after?
I did before, so we were backstage just having a chat, just to make sure it was on. So it was great, and it was a bit, I say I'm friends with most of the big. I think I've met all the big names in crime writing, and chatted with them or had a beer with them. Stephen King's is a wee bit different. He's a legend. So yeah, we chatted about backstage first before we came on, and that was great. It was a lot of fun.
A highlight, I would imagine, of your whole writing career so far.
Yeah, I would say it is, and it's just being able to pull that off. So we've got to try and top that for next year. I'm not sure how we top Stephen King, but not top Stephen King, that would be terrible. But how we raise that bar again. But we're going to have a go.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see, because I posted on Facebook that I was there and took a picture of the screen, and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe, you're watching that and stuff. And I'm like, they were comparing toilet stories, like genuinely, these two top authors were comparing toilet stories.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not where I expected it to go, but that was fine. Well, when we went back on and I interviewed them with questions at the end, I'd said, well, I was a bit disappointed there weren't more toilet stories. And I thought Stephen stopped for a minute, and then he got on. He said, oh no, well, we have more toilet stories if you want. But I think we'd had enough by that point.
Yes. So apart from that, what's been your favourite moment being an author so far?
Oh, I think all of it. I travel a lot, and that's great. I say my wife's also an author and a crime writer, so we go to a lot of the same festivals and across the US and Europe, and just being able to do that. Well, pre-COVID, obviously, all that's come to a crash and halt. But I'm looking forward to getting back to doing that again. We're going to, might still go to Iceland in November. Going to Santa Fe and Albuquerque in spring. We're going to New Zealand next year and events in the UK. So I think that part of it, traveling and meeting people, other writers and readers, it's a real privilege to be able to do it. So that the only thing that would top that, I think, would be we have a crime writers football match at Bloody Scotland. Didn't have one this year because of COVID, but that's been just a great thing as well. So the first year of that, I was in goals when Scotland beat England 13-1, and that would be right up there. They were top of my list. We've lost games since; they've had their revenge, but that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I heard about that from Suze Clark-Morris. I met her at Bloody Scotland the first time I've met her, and she was telling me about the torch procession and the football and stuff. And she said the football was one of her favourite things about the whole festival. So
we surprisingly get quite a big crowd to come and watch us play. Because they can get very close to the pitch and people like it and they can laugh at us or applaud us or whatever. Yeah, it's a pity we didn't have the torchlight this year. Again, it was COVID related, but in most years, we start up at Stirling Castle, which, as you know, is at the top of a pretty big hill, and about 300 people are given flaming torches, and we march through the streets down to the Albert Hall for the main event. And it's an incredible sight when you see the authors go to the front, or some, and to turn around and see 300 people behind you, the sloping up there with these, it's an amazing sight. So that will come back next year. We're going to start a day early next year. We're going to start on the Thursday, and we'll bring back the torchlight procession. All being well, all fingers crossed that this goes away and we can do it. So we want to bring that back.
Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, that's cool. Although I don't fancy walking up that hill again.
Well, you can get transport to the top of the hill and walk down it. It's much easier that way.
Oh, awesome. Well, no one bloody told me that last time.
Well, there's also there's pubs on the way. You can stop for a break and make it easier on yourself.
Yeah. What do you like to do when you're not writing?
Yeah, the travel is probably one of my favorite things. So I'm looking forward to that coming back. I mean, pre-COVID, we would be away every month. We'd be out of the country most of the time, each month, which the cat doesn't like so much. So it's much easier on him that we're not allowed to go anywhere now. So it's going to come as a shock to him. So traveling, I like cooking. I love to cook. So that's one of my favorite things. It's if I've been working in the afternoon, I don't tend to start too early in the day, but if I've been working in the afternoon, spending an hour doing something different and allowing the book to kind of work away in my head is really good. And I like experimenting with that and trying different things. So that's definitely one of my favorite things.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, Debbie Harry, probably. Like many guys of my age, Debbie Harry would be posters were on many, many walls. So she's the first one that comes to mind. So I think that would be about right.
Yeah, popular choice.
She's still some photographs out at the Met Ball, just a couple of, I know she's probably had some work done, but she looked fantastic, even though she must be 70-ish.
I think so, yeah, something like that, yeah.
She's wearing well.
Yeah, so yeah, she is. She does look incredible.
And if she's not had work done, I apologise and take that back.
Well, yeah, you never know these days, do you?
No, definitely not. I'll get mine done when the time comes.
I can't be asked. I'm just gonna. Well, I say I've got to age gracefully, but I do dye my hair pink to avoid the grey. So, not really so much. But hey,
that's okay.
Yeah,
I feel good.
Yeah, people don't believe I have grey hair. Like, no, seriously, I really do.
I thought it was naturally pink.
If only it'd be much easier and cheaper. You can't see. Oh yeah, I've got roots a little bit. My hair's naturally brown. I think it's been a while since I've had it that colour, but I'm pretty sure it's brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any strange or unusual talents or like party tricks?
Party tricks? Oh God, nothing that's very interesting. I can name, don't ask me to do it, but I can name all 50 state capitals in America as a party trick. I'm good at catching things. But if things fall off tables, I catch them. It's a weird thing. And it happened just last night. We're in the pub and they have this infamously slopey table. And a gin and tonic was on it and it slipped. And it was actually off the table before I noticed it. And I caught it before it hit the ground without spilling a drop. It's useful. I'm not going to earn a living from it, but it's useful. So that might be my party trick.
Good job, you can write pretty well then, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I'm glad of that. Yeah, I'm not much else to rely on. I could maybe get a job in the kitchen. I think I'd maybe be able to get away with that.
Yeah, that's true. If you can cook and catch stuff, then yeah. You'd be pretty useful.
I'm not sure I would enjoy it that much if I was getting paid for it. I like cooking for us, and that's enough, really.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, too much pressure, maybe poison people, and
yeah, that wouldn't be good. Yeah, if I poison us, no one cares. But yeah,
well, maybe one or two people.
That would be good. Yeah, that's nice to think they would.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. So you said you're working on another book at the moment, and then do you know what you're going to do after that?
Well, book 10 is done. That's coming out in January. I'm writing number 11 at the moment. I'm not sure where I'm going to go next. I've got various things I want to do. I want to write this Pharaoh's trilogy. I have a couple of thrillers, American-based thrillers I want to write, but it would be such a departure that I might do those under another name just so they're not confusing. I've got books stacked up and waiting to be written. But you don't always know until you start writing them whether they are actually going to work out. my original go at number 11, I worked on for a few months and realized it was the wrong book. So I switched, came up with another idea fairly quickly, thankfully. And I'm now right into that, and I'm loving it at the moment. At the moment, I haven't hit any problems. I'm sure there are some further down the line, but at the moment, this one's been fun to write, and where it's going to go.
Awesome. Well, you may be relieved to know that I don't have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything that I haven't asked you that you want to tell us.
I have no idea. Yeah, I've obviously I'll think of things as soon as we're finished, but no, I think we've just about covered everything.
Awesome. Well, before we go, would you like to just remind everyone where they can find out more about you and where they can get your books from?
I have a website which I think is called craigrobertson.co.uk. I am fairly sure. Books are available in all good bookshops and in all bad ones, and Amazon. So current one is Watch Him Die, came out last year, and The Undiscovered Deaths of Grace McGill comes out in January. And I'm really excited about that one. So copies are out there in the wild at the moment. Proofs are out there and people are reading them, and that's always a kind of exciting and terrifying time. But so far, people that have liked it have been reading it, have been liking it. So hopefully that's going to stay that way.
I'm sure it will. Early readers are a pretty good guide usually, aren't they? So
yeah, I'm loving what's been said so far. So I'm looking forward to it coming out.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That was painless. Mostly.